Today we have Lukas Dong, documentarian and director of Love Chinatown, which will premiere at Boston Asian American Film Festival on Friday, October 17th at Emerson Paramount Theater. Can you tell us a little bit about what Love Chinatown is about?
Love Chinatown is about community. It's about these incredible characters, Cynthia Yi and Gwen Liu, who coincidentally met in a Tai Chi class at BU. And they realized that they both grew up in Chinatown. Not only did they both grow up in Chinatown, but they both grew up on the same street, like right next to each other in Chinatown, only 50 years apart. Gwen's a student at BU and Cynthia's in her early 70s. And they had this like kind of spur of the moment connection and started realizing that, a lot of things in Chinatown have changed and are completely different. Their childhoods were vastly different, but a lot of things have also remained the same. And the film follows these two as they have this connection and they kind of talk to each other and go down memory lane. And it's a bit of an arc for Cynthia as she kind of breathes a new life into Chinatown, seeing it through Gwen's eyes. But it also really tells the story of Cynthia's time growing up in the 60s and 70s and what that was like, and how some of the struggles were, and just how much Chinatown has changed and how resilient the community is. But at the end of the day, it's also really about this beautiful community. I first came to Chinatown and met Cynthia before I really knew what the film was going to be about. And she took me around Chinatown for like 10 hours. It's a tiny little neighborhood here in Boston, but I met like 60 people, all the waiters, and she'd like be like, "Oh, Jie Jie," like the woman behind the bakery counters. And I was just overwhelmed by how many people like she knew, and even the people she didn't know that she would introduce me to. And I just knew that even though we're not going to talk to everyone in the film, like I want the film to feel rich with community because it really is there. And like if there's one thing you take away from it, it's that feeling of that richness and the resilience despite, having gone through so much.
That sounds wonderful. So what inspired you to make a documentary specifically about Boston's Chinatown?
So Breakwater Studios, the production company behind this film, we were hired by Oxford Properties, which is a real estate developer, and they're building on the outskirts of Chinatown. And being aware of the very complicated past and history that Chinatown has with developers, they wanted to do better and really give an opportunity for them to have a voice, this community that they're entering. And so in our eyes, that meant really telling Chinatown's story, and not just telling the story, but telling it from someone who has lived it or someone who is really part of the community. And instead of just shooting like beautiful shots of dim sum and like painting a nice visual, it was really important to us to tell that story and not be afraid to kind of go through some of the struggles too, because that's really what makes them who they are. And I think this is kind of how we all see it, is the way to give a voice to this community that maybe didn't always have a voice or isn't used to having a voice. And Cynthia as the main character is just like the perfect, not that she speaks for Chinatown as a whole, but she kind of represents this this boldness of being in places you might not feel like you're supposed to be in. And yeah, so it really kind of came from that, but it evolved into this beautiful story where I think it's set in this Boston Chinatown, but it's kind of about any Chinatown or any community that's been through similar situations.
Awesome. Can you walk us through how the film came together from a concept to the casting and to eventually the 18-minute documentary?
Yeah. So we started with a blank slate of like Boston's Chinatown. How do we tell this story? And we had a list of, I don't know, like 30 interesting people in Boston that we gathered from newspapers and stories, and anyone who's like from Chinatown or involved in Chinatown that had some kind of story. I saw this name Cynthia Yi, and I started Googling her, and I found this blog that she has where she writes these beautiful stories about her experience in Chinatown, growing up in Chinatown. And they're beautiful, like they're very captivating, beautiful writing. And I just feel like this person has something to say for sure. And we got on a call with her, and not only did she have something to say, she was also extremely direct and to the point, and didn't waste any time. Like she was a character. She wasn't taking any slack from anyone. And I really wanted someone who was like could get in your face and kind of tell you what the story is, not someone who'll just walk through it like a history lesson. So I was very interested in her and her storytelling ability, and I think she was a little wary about us. Like she didn't know if she could trust us. She didn't know who we were. So I went to Boston for just to meet her and like show her that how interested I am in her story, and also to see it through her eyes. And basically spent the whole day with her, walking around, meeting people, and trying to convince her that I want to tell her story, and learning all her stories. And it was a beautiful day, but it was so hard for me because I was like, oh, if I just filmed this whole day, I would have had an amazing film, like. And I realized she's going to unlock a lot of beautiful stories. And then she introduced me to Gwen. She met her in this Tai Chi class, and she was just sending me photos of this girl Gwen, and she was like, "Hey, I think she is a cool story. Like blah blah blah. Like, can she be in the film?" I was like, "Yeah, this is really interesting, and a total contrast in Cynthia's character. So I really wanted to see them both on screen, and kind of evolved from there."
I'm curious, why is it important for viewers to learn about the history of Chinatown? And what do you want the audience to take away from this documentary?
Yeah, I think even myself, before really diving into this film, I didn't know that much about Chinatowns anywhere in the world other than just going there to eat. And I think a lot of people see it as this place with, good food, and that's kind of it. And one of the opening lines of the film, Cynthia says, like, the real Chinatown is not in the restaurants, it's in the apartments above the restaurants. And like, just look up. And you never really realize that, as you never like look up, or you never like look in the corner. It's all these stories that are in plain sight, but we're kind of numb to them. And I think what I love about the story, and what I hope it inspires people to do, is to like look a little deeper, and like explore these stories that exist. And a lot of times they're coming from places or people that aren't going to go out of their way to like tell you their story. And whether it's on a personal level or on a community level, like giving more of a voice to other similar communities, I hope it inspires those communities, and it inspires individuals who are like not from those communities, if you're like moving there or passing through, to think a little deeper about it.
So before we wrap this up, where can viewers learn more about Love Chinatown?
We are premiering the film on October 17th at Boston Asian American Film Festival. We have one screening on the 17th, and then another one on Saturday, the 18th. And really excited to bring the film for its world premiere to Boston, not very far from Chinatown. So viewers can go to baff.org, BAAFF.org, to get more info on tickets, times, screenings, and other ways to watch the film.
Great. Sounds good. I can't wait to see it.